I got you in cuffs.
Okay. Did you call it order?
No, it has
We
been
call
called.
this, public hearing to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Davis,
Here.
Councilman Mike Cooley,
Here,
Councilman Corey Oxford,
Here.
Councilman Bob Barkers,
Here.
Councilman Jerry Flutie.
Here,
Okay, we have a quorum. Would everyone please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, basically, this meeting is for, ordinance number 880, Title 17 subdivisions. And, we have between the planning commission, Emery, we have reworked this ordinance some, make it easier for subdivisions and at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Emery.
So when you review the ordinance, there wasn't a lot of real meaty changes. A lot of it was just restructuring what we had so we could clean up some gray areas. In the future, when we have more subdivisions, we'll have the same requirements for each. There won't be as much ambiguity for so-and-so had to dedicate a park and so-and-so didn't, and so-and-so paid and so-and-so didn't. We cleaned up some of that stuff. The requirements that are in here for the utilities is the same that are in the water and sewer ordinances. So those match in what's required when you put a sewer and water line in. So there's no argument there about what's required for service lines. And those were kind of the main types of things that we cleaned up. And then, defining and referencing different parts of the ordinance. So when you were reading through, you knew where you had to go next, not just clicking on another section until you kind of mapped out the process yourself. We did quite a bit of referencing. We didn't require all subdivisions to have curb and gutter or anything like that. We didn't make a bunch of big changes that way.
That was.
Is it-
Oh, go ahead, Drew.
is it in there where when they put the water line in, they gotta run it to the edges where they're,
Within 5 feet of the property line with the service lines.
but yet they don't have to pay a tap.
They'll have to pay just a portion of it in accordance with the water lines. They'll pay like a small impact fee. So that way, if we have 25 service lines in the ground, it might take a long time for those to get paid for. So we'll accrue a little bit of that cost, and you guys can set that rate.
We're charging whoever builds the house a tap fee.
Well, there'll be a connection. What they're working on is there'll be a connection fee for that. When they build a house, put the meter in and everything. Is what they're working on.
Oh, and what's that now? Connection fee.
To make it.
That's gonna come through the joint powers board as a suggestion to us.
And then you guys can set that.
Yeah. Cause you're encouraging people to develop and build houses.
Right.
There's not enough living, but yet we're adding more cost to them putting a water line in that we own, that we're making money off of.
See.
That's the part that never made sense to me.
That discussion come about in both stocks, and I believe the past council, they had them put it in to the property line, so they didn't have to dig up new pavement.
New pavement, that makes
They did
sense.
waive until a house was built to collect the water and sewer.
Yeah, like Ogden's, we don't take anything and haven't got anything until somebody goes and does a house.
And that's the way. Whether it was done 100% correctly, no, but we're trying to set it up where it will be.
Yeah.
According per ordinance, and the only way they could do that was in 2 stages. So we could recoup a little bit of our curb stop and everything, by running that. We didn't have to dig up new pavement.
Yeah, and as far as like philosophically with the tap fees and stuff. I mean, yeah, we want to make sure we paid for all parts and everything, but when we get to talking about the cost of that, the base rate to me is where we have the revenue recouping discussion. Like, I don't think, we need to have super, that's thing people argue about. I'm kind of on the, I don't get too worked up about the connection fees being such and such, because it's such a small percentage of what the base rate, the base rate's gonna provide that stabilizing revenue over time.
Yeah.
And when we get to that point, we can, that'll be your guys' ordinance to pass, change, do whatever you want.
Well, and now it comes to when the water and sewer ordinances finally get to us, which I guess are getting close.
Yeah, we just got typos and stuff to go through, Kylie's. So,
Then we'll put the wording in there that if they don't have what we like, we can put it in, and if a new council doesn't like it, then they can change the wording in it, but. It was gonna cost, like Stocks' subdivision, it was an ungodly amount of money they were looking at.
yeah, because they had like, it would have been like 58 or 59,000 bucks in tap fees to pay a tap fee for every.
Yeah.
And that's.
But I can see them not paying the tap fee because they have the expense of the water line and the stubs going off.
Right,
They're covering that cost already. But when the house is built and the people are building or the builder's building, they're building a house, that to me is when the tap fee should be paid. Because otherwise it's sitting there dead. It's kind of like charging people when we shut their water off. They're not getting a service anymore. So how can you charge?
well, if you still got access, if you shut it off for the winter, you still got access to it, you're gonna come and turn it back on.
Yeah, you still have access to it.
Yeah, so all that infrastructure that's still out there, you're still.
But what you're doing most time is penalizing people that don't have the money to catch their bill up, to not be able to catch it up sometimes. To where you could charge a shut off and a turn on fee and do the same thing, and I went through that with the house over here, so $5,000 later.
Right, well,
Yeah.
turning the billing on and turning the billing off, and
And it wasn't turning on or off, it was turned off. Yeah,
now we have that disconnect, like if somebody wants to say you got a lot that's got a service on it, we can disconnect it. And you don't have a bill for 10 years or whatever, but if somebody comes and buys that lot and wants to put a house on it, then you gotta pay for,
a tap fee again.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we can, which I think that's a good tool for us, so
Mhm.
we don't have endless
But
accumulation.
you don't want the people coming and going from summer to winter, shutting it off and turning it back on and have that cost of turning it off and,
Right, we just shut it off and they just pay their 35
yeah,
bucks a month through the winter.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's why that having to pay that tap fee is important, or everyone would want to just fill that out.
yeah.
But, and if there's anything when we get to that, that's in with that section, that's conflicting, it's an easy, we just pass another paragraph ordinance to just amend.
Yeah.
Randy Rimmer had a.
And the subdivision ordinance, it did need reworked. It really did. It was tough. I got involved with part of both Stocks, and we were involved with also up here with the Saratoga, and man, there was a lot of conflicting stuff,
Hmm.
and it did need reworked.
Yeah, and a lot of it came from like when Levi's got an interpretation, I have one, and then Bo has a third one. We don't want to have that again in the future.
Now, and plus in this, he's included, correct me if I'm wrong, but letters that, if they're not completely finished, we can still hold them to it and allow a house to be built to help recuperate their cost.
But that's more specifically spelled out, the building permit section, certificate of occupancy. And there were some outdated assurances that were like some really convoluted bank account stuff that you could do to ensure and when we went with the ones that are more common and easier to work with.
That's. Now, if you want to build a subdivision, it's right there. It's plain Jane, what you gotta do, and you could basically get a checklist, and
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, just water, that utilities was your main.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that was the only questions I had.
Any other questions? No, it looks a lot better than it was.
A lot cleaner.
It did, a lot cleaner. Well, we'll leave the public hearing open for 5 more minutes. If nobody comes, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Does anybody from the public have any? Nothing from the public. Thought there might be somebody here.
I did too. Some of the contractors might be here or something.
Yeah, Randy had a copy of it.
Yeah.
You know what, maybe that's a compliment.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be.
It might be.
Good job.
This kind of stuff. Public hearing done. This is how it goes.
Yeah.
No.
Well, something that doesn't mean anything and 20 people show up pissed.
Yeah.
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 Pickleball.
Right?
Yeah.
Interesting little things. Chances humans get.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So this your first time then?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's. The Salt Lake. Fucking real.
So you've been to by Delta to Topaz Mountain? The Delta and Nephi. There's a Nephi and a Nephi, so I'm not sure which.
Is that any stuff?
Just out of Salt Lake toward Provo. You go past Provo out there a little ways and turn right. Oh. Utah's got some beautiful stuff. It does. Not only there in Moab, but then if you go up and turn it to where you go down through a place like Moab and Zion, and Zion's incredible, but you got to permit it now, so. But it's, I went when you used to just show up in the car and hop on a bus and they'd run and drop you off wherever. Didn't have to have permits or anything. That's only been probably 6 years ago. Arrows is really cool, and Angel's Landing there is probably the best way to see the whole park from one place, but it's 2.5 miles up and you're on cliffs on part of it, and then 2.5 miles back.
How far is Zion's from Moab?
3 hours probably. Yeah. Yeah. If you go, like you've been to Hurricane? No, you've been to St. George? Going to Vegas? Right before St. George turned to Hurricane. And that goes into the entrance of Zion. Or you can go up through Moab, up over 70 and turn at Green River, and you go over to Hanksville and turn and go the back way in. And it takes you through a bunch of state parks and pink sand dunes and slot canyons, and then you go in the back of Zion through a tunnel that's a mile, I think, long.
It's like a little train tunnel or something.
What's that?
It's an old train tunnel or something.
I don't think so. I think it's for vehicles only. Yeah,
No, there's a lot, there's more we're looking around.
well, there's a lot. Yeah.
It's really not far away.
Now Moab's 6.5 hours. Yeah.
John?
No.
Does it?
And there's a lot around Moab and below Moab and
How busy is it this time of year?
shouldn't be very busy.
It's
Just starting to get busy.
okay, it's like April, May, so it's getting pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be 2 hours getting through town and it's about like going through Saratoga twice. 3 times, probably 3 times. Bumper to bumper and barely moving and yeah,
Where's everybody come from? Salt Lake and
everywhere, all over the world, actually.
I would say our spring break usually lines up with Jeep Week, so some of the trails are busy, but town's not bad yet.
Yeah.
that sounds nice.
All right. I'll ask one more time, is there any comments from the public on ordinance number 880? Dealing with Title 17. Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna ask for a motion to close this public hearing.
I'll make the motion to close this
Do
public.
I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.